can you coach or can you not coach? Can you lead or can you not lead? I don't really care what color your skin is. I want the best guy.
I'm done with the whole first-year head coach thing.
Not bought in at all times.
I'm just curious to see if these offensive-minded potential head coaches are going to try and salvage Kyler.
I think all right, SEEIN RED Podcast, Episode 1.
Let's go.
I am Rob Fredrickson, 9-year NFL veteran, 4 years with the Arizona Cardinals, and I am the current radio analyst for the Arizona Cardinals radio, and I'm here with my son, Cade Fredrickson, personal trainer, fitness coach, award-winning power lifter, and soon-to-be High Rocks pro competitor. Not going to put you on the award mantle yet. Not going to put you up on the pedestal yet.
Not yet, yep.
You're ready to rock and roll. Cade, I'm glad we're doing this. I love you. What's up?
I'm so pumped. I'm so amped up. I love talking Cardinals with you. I love talking shop. We can go for hours on end with no break, back and forth. I'm beyond excited. Ready to roll.
Yeah, so why are we doing this? I guess that's the big question. And I think see a lot of podcasts, see a lot of Cardinals-focused podcasts. I don't see any really with a former player, so somebody that understands kind of what's going on inside the lines, and a super fan, and that's you. I mean, you named your car after our previous head coach, Jonathan Gannon, R.I.P., but you named your car the Gannon Cannon. So I think this could be a really cool kind of back and forth from a fan's perspective, but also from a former player's perspective.
I can bring the side of things that every fan is truly feeling. Like you're saying, I'm just like any other fan that lives in this state. I think I share the similar thoughts that we all do, and I want the opposite end of that. I want the former player. I want the guy that is behind the radio, given the stats, given the perspective of this is what it is, and whether you're a fan or not, this is just how it's going to roll.
Yeah, well, I'm a former player, but I'm also a huge fan. I've been a fan of the Arizona Cardinals forever, since my playing days, and so we all want what's best for the Arizona Cardinals. We want what's best for the city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona. So with that, we might as well dive in head first without probing the depth of the pool. Just go for it, dive in. The biggest topic right now is who will be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. We'll kind of, I think, maybe take a slight step back and assess what was the downfall of the previous coaching regime. Why are we at this point right now?
Well, from how I see it, Gannon comes in, fresh off winning a Super Bowl with the Eagles against the Chiefs, played here. Gannon was the talk of the talk. This guy's a defensive-minded genius. I mean, he earned his role into a head coaching position, would just get off of Kingsbury. It was his time to step in and change the culture. I think that was like the biggest thing I was looking forward to the most with Gannon was that culture shift.
Yeah, we heard a lot about culture in his 3 years that Jonathan Gannon was here, and to a large extent, I think the players bought in. I really do. I think they were bought into what he was selling, but there was a lot of problems along the way, right? Especially this past season, where every expectation was that this was a playoff team. This was potentially a division-winning team, if not maybe a wild card team, but the playoffs, I think, was the expectation going into this past season. And obviously we know how that turned out. So how did we get there? How did it turn out like that? I think injuries is always low-hanging fruit that you can go to and look at, but every team deals with that. The Arizona Cardinals did deal with it a lot more than other teams, but you had the Kyler situation where he went down, got injured, and then Jacoby Brissett came in and played really well. And so there was a kind of an issue there with Kyler, James Conner. There's so many significant injuries to this team that I can see where that might be a part of the equation in terms of looking at how did we get to where we got?
I also kind of look at, if I'm kind of pivoting off of injuries, just the team's production. Let's start offensively, right, with Drew Petzing. I liked his switch up from Kingsbury, meaning that Kyler's under center majority of the time. There's a lot of tight ends down. Kingsbury was always in shotgun. It was always these receiver screens, and it was very these gimmicky, December Cliff type offensive plays. And I honestly like the Petzing era of offense, but I think kind of back to the injuries, you're right. When it's hard to really produce on an offense when all your top guys are out.
Yeah, no, I agree. But zooming out a little bit, I think the biggest cause for the downfall of the Jonathan Gannon coaching situation was the lack of experience on his staff. When you look at the position coaches, you look at the coordinators, pretty much when they came in, none of them had any prior NFL coaching experience at the positions they were tasked with leading. And when you don't have that, when times get tough, and they will in the NFL, when things aren't going exactly how you anticipate, you don't have any experience to lean back on and to say, hey, I've been in this situation before, here's what we need to do. And so, without the experience at the position coaches, without the experience at the coordinators, without any senior consultants, anyone to kind of be a sounding board for, I think that was really the major downfall of Jonathan Gannon. Now, obviously, you got to win football games. That's number one, and they didn't. 15-36 for his tenure, and 3-15 in the NFC West. 2 years. 2 of his 3 years not winning a game against NFC West opponents. That can't happen.
Can't happen.
And so that is kind of why we are here where we're at. And so now looking forward, we've undergone this coaching search. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Gannon's been fired, about 20 days ago or so.
Just about.
And so we're in the midst of this coaching search. I think Cardinal fans want this to be over soon, and they want a coach that they can believe in and that they can buy into. They got a long list of candidates, and we can go through it. But I guess my question for you is, what are the Cardinals looking for? What are the fans looking for from a new head coach?
Ultimately, I think, especially me, I know me. But I can speak for a lot of Cardinals fans in this regard. I'm done with the whole first-year head coach thing. Okay, I'm kind of shipping the boat on that because of the experience, like you're saying. I want a guy walking in there that has done it, has been to the playoffs multiple times, like a Tomlin, like a McDermott, something like that, with even some Super Bowl experience sprinkled in there. Now, that's asking for a lot, but ultimately, the guy that's going to win the locker room over, shifting the culture. That's, I think, what ultimately Cardinals fans want at the end of the day. Now, what's going to come with that? Okay, great. To kind of fill in the gap of the inexperienced position coaches, great head coaches hire great position coaches. I'm sure you dealt with it your whole career. The best coaches you coached, I'm sure the position coaches easily could have taken a head coaching job or a higher position in any other team. But ultimately, the experience. I want someone that is offensive driven and has the experience to change the culture.
Now, the counterpoint to that is Sean McVay didn't have any experience when he became the head coach of the Rams.
True. True.
Mike McDonald didn't have any previous head coaching experience when he became the head coach of the Seahawks. So, for me, I don't want to set hard and fast barriers or parameters where you can't be a first-time head coach, because I think there are some amazing talents out there. My thing, and I'll go back to what I said about Jonathan Gannon and his downfall, is he didn't surround himself with experienced staff. I think if you're a first-time head coach, you have to have experienced coordinators. You have to have experienced position coaches. And, that comes with a price tag. right?
Sure.
So you're going to have to pay, as an organization, you're going to have to pay for quality assistants. Now, for a first-time head coach, it's going to be harder for that first-time head coach to recruit these quality assistants because he doesn't have a lot of time in the league. He doesn't have the relationships with these other coaches that a veteran coach would have. And so it's not as if he can just scroll through his iPhone and call up guys and say, hey, come with me to Arizona. It's going to be more of a challenge, I think, for a first-year head coach. I would agree with that. But for me, I'm looking for a guy that has a plan in place. I don't care if it's an offensive-minded guy. I don't care if it's a defensive-minded guy. Now, I would probably lean towards offense.
Me too.
Because of the situation the Cardinals present themselves with, and that is, the lack of clarity at the quarterback position, I think. And the Cardinals are going to draft a quarterback, whether it's this year or next year. They're going to draft a quarterback, and that quarterback is going to need to be developed. And a coach with an offensive background, I think, would make the most sense to really help and aid that quarterback along. But again, if we come across a defensive coach that just makes all the sense in the world, checks all the boxes from the organization standpoint, I say pull the trigger, and now let's go get that offensive coordinator guru that can really coach up these guys.
I mean, the guy that crosses my mind, I don't know if he'll pull the trigger on ripping Arizona, but Mike McCarthy, offensive driven a little bit. He's got the experience. I know he's, talking with Pittsburgh or whatever, but, I see the whole first year thing that you're talking about and how other coaches have had success with that. But, I mean, ultimately, I would love Kenny Dillingham in there, for crying out loud. I mean,
yeah, that's one out of left field. I mean,
Well,
let's look at the list here of what we got for the Cardinals, and some of them do have previous head coaching experience. You mentioned Mike McCarthy. He's not on my list, but he certainly would be somebody that I would imagine the Cardinals would want to talk to.
100%.
You looking at this, and you got Sean McDermott, obviously, which was a shock to me, a surprise to me, the Bills letting him go. And then now there's all this backstory about him and the GM and them kind of going opposite paths with regards to personnel. And so that kind of ended strangely. But Sean McDermott, I think he could get whatever job he wanted. It's just a question of whether or not he wants it. Mike Tomlin, I haven't heard much about him with regards to coaching,
right?
And maybe he takes a year off. I don't know.
I can see that.
The other guys that have some head coaching experience, obviously Raheem Morris, and I think looking at him, he is a guy that the Arizona Cardinals have circled, and they have interviewed him, and so he's a guy that I do believe is in the mix when you're looking at coaches with previous head coaching experience. So let's just go down the list here again. I'll kind of name them off. In the coaches from the NFC West, Rams defensive coordinator Chris Shula.
Yep.
Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, who I've heard a lot of chatter. The Cardinals are high on him. Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak.
I've heard good things about him.
Another one that the Cardinals are high on. You had 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, but he has taken the Titans position. And then previous defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, who was previously with the Cardinals.
Let me say something real quick about Vance Joseph.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with him. I'm going to come out and say it.
Okay.
I think Vance Joseph is just a stretch. I think that is a desperate pickup. I don't think he's a head coach type caliber coach. I mean, now listen, he's kind of one of those guys that's like, in my opinion, Kingsbury, leave the play calling to you and the game time decisions to somewhere else. Now, he hasn't been a head coach, at least that I know of. So, maybe I can't say that, but I think that's just out of this list that we're looking at here for candidates for head coach, Vance Joseph. Goodness gracious. I don't think any Cardinals fan would want anything to do with him. And if we do, can we get Nick Allen back?
Yeah. Vance Joseph was a defensive coordinator with Arizona from 2019 through 2022. So right smack dab in the middle of COVID. He had all those games with no one in the stands. We want to forget about COVID.
Please.
And, obviously Vance Joseph was here with Arizona. Another name that is popping up, and I think Cardinal fans are familiar with him because his video went viral, is Anthony Campanelli, who is the defensive coordinator with Jacksonville. And previous to that, he was a linebacker coach at Miami, and then he was, in 2024, he was a linebacker coach and run game coordinator with Green Bay. Now, he's a feisty guy. This guy, Anthony Campanelli, if you've seen the viral clip.
I haven't seen it.
A lot of people are likening him to the defensive Dan Campbell. Okay.
Oh, talk to me.
You remember Dan Campbell when he famously quoted that he wants guys that are gonna chew off people's kneecaps, right, and just get after it. And Dan Campbell is a human quote machine, and everybody loves to play for a guy like that, right?
Of course.
That's kind of how I see Anthony Campanelli. He's a guy background from Rutgers and Boston College. That's where he kind of chewed his teeth, and he's come up through the league. He's 43 years old, but he only has 1 year of defensive coordinator experience. So he would really need to lean on his staff and his support system if you're going to go that route. The other coaching candidates I think that the Cardinals are high on, from what I'm hearing, is Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator with the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
He's been there in that position for a couple of years. Prior to that, he was the offensive coordinator with the Jets. Obviously, the name LaFleur is synonymous in the NFL. Everybody knows that name. That's his brother coaches the Packers, but he doesn't play call. And I'm hearing a lot from Cardinal fans that they want their new head coach to be a play caller.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, that seems to be a prerequisite from a lot of people, and I'm not sure that I agree with that. And I know there seems to be this thought, a prevalent thought that the head coach needs to call the plays. That's a smart guy. A smart guy can call the plays and manage the game at the same time. I don't know. I mean, you can see it both ways. Cliff Kingsbury called the plays for the Cardinals.
Look at Ben Johnson.
And you can make the argument when Cliff Kingsbury was here that in-game decision-making was part of his downfall. One of the major things that held the Cardinals back. There were several games where, had he made the right call in certain situations in terms of when to take timeouts, when to challenge plays, the Cardinals could have easily have won 3 or 4 of those games per season, and it just didn't work out that way. So, to me, whether or not the new head coach is an actual play caller, I don't care. I want, if it's an offensive-minded coach, I want that coach to come in with that system. And if it is a Mike LaFleur, he's bringing in the Sean McVay system.
Yes.
And not only just how the plays are called and the terminology and how the offense is structured, but he'll bring in the McVay structure to the work week,
right,
to what it means to be a winning football team. And this is how it looks. This is how things are set up. A lot of that is what the head coaching position is all about. It's not so much getting into the weeds of the play calling and the situations and all that. The head coach has got to zoom out and take on the role of, this is how our week is structured.
Now give me, okay, because this is interesting now, because it popped in my head. when you were playing, it doesn't matter if it was for the Raiders, Cardinals, Lions. Talk to me about that. How did if you're dominated offensively or defensively on your teams, how did the head coach structure that week to week? Give me a little brief rundown on how the intensity was, the attention to detail, the emotions you felt, or how did the players react to a dominant head coach during the week?
Yeah, so I mean, every as you mentioned, every coach is different, right? Every head coach is different. Most of the head coaches are not. You're not going to see a Kenny Dillingham type rah-rah guy. That wears very thin with NFL players real quick. They don't need to be motivated. They're already hyper motivated to begin with. If you're not going to last long in this league because you get fished out. Players can just smell that in the locker room if you're not really 100% motivated. So that's not really the role of the head coach. Again, for me, it's about structure, and it's about structuring the practice, structuring the work week and the work day, and that falls on to the head coach. That's his responsibility. Now he's going to be an integral part in the game planning. Yeah. So after a game on Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, he's going to be involved in those game plan meetings. And then on Wednesday is when the install happens for that week, for the offense and defense. And so the head coach will be a big part in those meetings. But it'll fall on primarily the coordinators and the position coaches.
I like the defensive coordinator from Jacksonville even more hearing that, because I feel from a fan's perspective that the Dan Campbells, the Mike Vrabels of the league are the guys that you want to play for. It's the relationship with player and coach is more like a family. It's more like, hey, we're going to war together, and let's come up with a game plan starting Wednesday, and let's go execute come Sunday.
Yeah. And look, Anthony Campanelli, don't get it twisted, he can flat out coach. He came in to Jacksonville and took a defense that was struggling, bottom third in the league in terms of pass and rush and scoring defense, and he turned them into, in 1 year, he turned them into the number one defense against the rush, top 10 total defense, top 10 in terms of turnovers. So, whatever he did with virtually the same cast of characters, it translated and it resonated with those players, and they upped their game. That's something that I think sells in an interview with the Arizona Cardinals, because I look at the roster, I look at the defense and the talent that the Arizona Cardinals have on that defense, and it was either not utilized, not putting the players in the best positions to succeed, or the players were, kind of not bought in at all times, because you saw the missed tackles and the bad angles that the defensive players were taking this past season, and a lot of that, is correctable. It is correctable, and obviously Anthony Campanelli did that with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's something that, for me, if I'm him in that interview, in that meeting room, I'm highlighting that, because that is a clear reflection on his input into that team.
No doubt, 100%.
So, we looked at a few of these guys. Another one that's coming in to interview tomorrow on Sunday with the Cardinals is Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver. He's coming in, and it should be noted that Anthony Weaver and Raheem Morris have interviewed. Therefore, the Cardinals have adhered to the Rooney Rule to interview at least two minority coaches. And so that would put them in compliance with the Rooney Rule, and they would be able to go anywhere else. So I have a feeling.
Can I put a pause on? Can you explain to me the Rooney Rule?
So the Rooney Rule was established basically because there was not many minority coaches, head coaches in the league, if any, and and they weren't getting interviews either for head coaching positions. So the Rooney Rule was instituted to force ownership of anytime there was a head coaching vacancy, force ownership to at least interview minority coaches. And that's been a rule. I think it started back when I was playing. So, ages ago. It's been around for a while, but look, can you coach or can you not coach? Can you lead or can you not lead? I don't really care what color your skin is. To me, if I was the owner, I want the best guy.
No doubt.
Period. End of story. Best female if it's a female. Okay, I really don't care. It does not matter to me as a player. I want the best coach, and so it's sad that we have to have something like that, but it is a reality, and the Cardinals are compliant with that. So I have a sneaky suspicion that the Cardinals are going to continue to wait this out to see and to gauge and to try and understand the level of interest from Mike LaFleur from the Rams,
right,
and Clint Kubiak from the Seahawks. And they obviously play this weekend. One of those teams will be out. One of those coaches will be able to do in-person interviews.
Now, do you think, since these guys are both offensive coordinators, I know I want to stay focused on just the coaches themselves, but it can't help cross my mind. Do you think these guys are going to try and salvage someone like Kyler Murray, or do you think they're just going to dump him to the wayside? Or, I mean, that to me keeps popping in my head because at some point we're wanting to do something with Kyler. Either we get him with the right coach and we get him going on all cylinders and maximize his true game, or we let Jacoby Brissett come in and we kind of kick Kyler by the wayside. We saw what Jacoby did. He gave Trey McBride his record for the year. I mean, he's in game completion. Stone and I were at that game, and I mean, it was phenomenal to see. The guy can release the ball quick. He can make production. I'm just curious to see if these offensive-minded potential head coaches are going to try and salvage Kyler.
I think the ship has sailed on Kyler as an Arizona Cardinals quarterback. I think that is over and done with. I think Kyler wants a change of scenery. I think the Arizona Cardinals do as well. You can point back to some things that have transpired with regards to Kyler, and it's kind of muddied the water, kind of made it less appealing, I think, for mutually for both sides to continue this relationship. And so I think if a coach is coming in and interviewing and puts that stipulation in there that I want to work with Kyler, I don't think that coach will remain as a viable candidate. Just my opinion, just my take on it. But I think the new coach coming in will want to draft his quarterback, will want to really have a big part in that and say in that. And you also got to think about this. Cardinals, unfortunately, kind of find themselves in the position of, it's not so much what coach do we want to coach our team. In some respects, it's more who can we get. It's almost like the leverage has changed a little bit. Now there's only 32 of these jobs in the whole world, right? So that's obviously highly coveted. But when you look at the NFC West and the difficulty, the perceived path to success in that division is a steep climb, right? It's like the north face of Mount Everest.
It really is.
To climb to the top of that division with the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks, all playoff teams, right? Especially an experienced coach, a coach like a Mike Tomlin or somebody like that, they don't want to rebuild. They don't want to start from ground zero. They've already established their legacy. They've already established their hierarchy in terms of all-time great coaches. Why would you want to go to a division where you don't have certainty at the quarterback position and you are miles behind the other three opponents? To me, that just makes this job opportunity that much more difficult to recruit the highest caliber coaches. Now, I do like some of these coaches' names that we've listed off, and some of these coaches I think can be successful in this league in the head coach position. But a lot of these guys, they've never been a head coach. And that may be the direction that you find yourself in, that you're forced with, because some of these guys, maybe like a Mike Tomlin or Sean McDermott, they might just say, you know what, I'm going to go over here and do TV for a year.
Yeah.
Chill. Make 20 mil, chill, and next year I'll see what coaching vacancies are available and try it again.
That smells like Mike Tomlin. It smells like that's what he can do. He seems like a great TV personality.
Sean Payton did it.
There you go. Sean Payton did it. I think that's why Salas is the first person that comes to my mind. A lot of, just from seeing a lot of fans on social media, they wanted Saleh.
I did.
You know what? I'm cool that he's with Tennessee. I'm cool with him not being it. I don't think he wanted to smoke versus Shanahan twice a year. I don't think he wanted to go toe-to-toe with his former coach twice a year. He wanted nothing to do with it. Now, I don't think that's why, to your point, the McDermotts and the Tomlins don't want anything to do with us. That's just because they don't want a steep hill to climb. But, I mean, I'm eager to pursue this first-year thing. You're kind of warping my mind a little bit with it being okay with the first-year thing. I told you I was heavy on no first-year coaches because I'm sick of it. I mean, I'm only 24 years old. I've been a Cardinal fan my whole life. And I know I got years to come of more suffering. Eventually, at some point, it always happens to us. I want to make a positive step. I don't want to keep taking 3 steps back to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody does, right? And, at a certain point, you have to just make a decision, right? The Arizona Cardinals are going to have to make a decision, and it has to come quick because – you look at what's coming up. Next week, the 31st, is the Senior Bowl, okay? All of the coaches in the NFL, college coaches, pro coaches, they descend on Mobile, Alabama, and they all hang out in the bar at the Hilton in Mobile, and that's where coaches go to find a different job, find a better gig. It's a networking bonanza down at the Senior Bowl. They're not just there to scout the next great players and the next great draft picks. They're coaches and general managers. They're all down there, checking out the job market. It is basically Indeed for football players or football coaches in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl, and that's next week. So. I do think the Arizona Cardinals will pull the trigger at some point here soon because there are significant things that are coming up on the calendar. The scouting combine is the end of February. That's another thing where you would hope you would have your staff fully in place by then, so you can really identify the players that you really want to look at more closely. And so, I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to make decisions soon. If I had to give a top 3 right now, and I have no insider information, the Arizona Cardinals have been very buttoned up about this. They've been very quiet. There haven't been leaks about it. But just from what the chatter I'm seeing and hearing and what I think direction-wise that they're going to go, it's either going to be Mike LaFleur, Clint Kubiak, and I'll throw Anthony Campanelli in there. And then I would also add Raheem Morris. So I think that's my four right now, in no particular order. But I think those four, but within those four, you're going to have a very solid coach and a good opportunity to make some headway. Now, the question that I have for you is, how do any of those names or any of the other names that we've talked about resonate with the fan base? Because, look, let's be honest. This Arizona Cardinals fan base have been through an awful lot over the years. And they have been on the roller coaster with Jonathan Gannon, where came in and you talk about the culture and you talk about, how tough we're going to be and we're going to line up 3 tight ends and we're going to run the ball. And they did. And you saw some growth from year 1 to year 2. But then this past season was the letdown of all letdowns.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
And anything, regarding the Arizona Cardinals fan base, if they're still here, which I think there are, I think there's a significant amount of Arizona Cardinal fans
We're here.
that are still here. And there's a lot of them complaining and bitching on Twitter and I get it. It's frustrating. But I think when September rolls around again, they'll be back. But back to my question, of those names that we kind of talked about in terms of candidates, head coaching, how does that resonate? Is that something that you think the fan base will get behind, or do they need to further be, cajoled or brought with the team?
I think the fan base, in my opinion, is kind of split right down the middle with their opinions on the expectations from the coaching staff and then player development, player talent, how the decision making on that end. I have listed right here. Here are my, because I was waiting for you to ask this question. The fan expectations ultimately for the new head coach. Okay, we want clarity, we want accountability, and we want to compete in this division. I want to see Arizona at the top of the division at the end of the year and hanging up another banner. I think ultimately every Cardinals fan can agree with those 3. Now, we've been frustrated with, the hiring processes in the past or whatever, and we're kind of concerned about the commitment to the organization through the players and the coaches, right? That culture thing. But I think if we narrow down the clarity, accountability, and if we can compete in the NFC West, we're going to be happy. If he's a first-year guy, look what McDonald's doing in Seattle. It's his second or third year now, and now look at him. He is competing for a divisional game, potentially Super Bowl. It can be done, but ultimately we need those 3. We need the leader to give us those 3 things.
Okay, clarity, accountability. What was the third one?
I want to win the NFC West, compete at the NFC West, be a top dog in the NFC West. I want to own the division.
Okay, so if you're Michael Bidwell and you're sitting there in an interview with any one of these coaches, and say you come to a decision, you're going to hire one. Are these expectations written down? Are these expectations cast in stone, or is this just a talk? I mean, because there's this old saying, unmentioned expectations are premeditated resentments, right? And so to avoid that, what does that clarity look like? What are those expectations? You mentioned win the NFC West. Okay, is that a year 1 expectation? Because that's not, you're going to be one and done now.
Okay.
If you do that, right? There's got to be a step up. There's got to be a progression, I think, in terms of marrying expectations with reality.
Then I'll give a brief breakdown of that. And I hate to kind of leech onto my rival Seahawks head coach here, Mike Macdonald, but he said in his viral video of the Seahawks that produced, of which I really, really leaned into and really love, he goes to the players, envision the NFC Championship a year, 12 months from now, 9 months from now. And he was, let's say, 22 months from now. He's a little off, but envision it's raining outside, bad weather, we're going to compete, they're going to struggle. I want a guy that's, expectations on timelines, I just want to get better every day. It's not about being perfect or being ultimately figured out year one, but we got to make steps forward every single day, every single workout, every single walkthrough, every single practice, every single game. The expectation I'd rather have, okay, in 2 years from now, we're going to be the top of the NFC. Yes, of course I want that, and everyone else does too, but the Campbells, the Vrabels, let's get better every day. Better every day. Better every day.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that. And, I think every coach in those interview rooms or wherever they do an interview, Steak 44, I don't know where they do these interviews, but I think every coach is echoing that. I think that's coach speak, which, is good. There's a reason why cliches are often true is because, it's just, that's a go-to. It's what you say. And any coach that comes in here and interviews with the Arizona Cardinals, I firmly believe that that's going to be one of their expectations for themselves is to win the NFC West. I think it's a daunting task. I'm not going to lie, because when I look at the rosters for the Arizona Cardinals versus the other teams in the NFC West, you see there is a disparity. There's a gap in terms of talent. It's a bit disheartening that none of the draft picks from Monty Ossenfort era have gotten any Pro Bowl recognition. No, I get it. That can be a popularity contest, and you're not going to be very popular when you're losing a lot of games. So I understand that, but you'd like to see some of these draft picks really flourishing, and I just don't think we're seeing that now. So that's either they're talented enough, but they weren't coached up properly.
Right.
They weren't put in the right positions to be successful. So that's on the coaching side, or they just are what they are, and they're not good enough. And then that is on the talent evaluator side. That is on the general manager and the personnel side. So that all needs to be kind of ferreted out when we look at whoever the new coach is coming in and what he can do with regards to the personnel.
No doubt.
Yeah. So what else?
Well, I mean, we hit it, pretty much everything. We really went I liked how we went in depth with the coaching staff, and we really hit on those points. Pro Bowl games, February 3rd. I think the Pro Bowl thing is just hot garbage now. What even is that? I don't even know what the Pro Bowl is anymore.
Yeah.
No one wants to get hurt. I get it, because everyone used to pad it up, and you wear your team helmets and let's go. But now it's all skill position. Now I know COVID changed that, but I mean, I guess that bear the question: is it even cool or reputable, or do you even get a cool accolade behind the name when you're a Pro Bowler?
See, here's the challenge. Every other professional sport, you can have a Pro Bowl or All-Star game, and the players don't really have to try, right? You can skate around nice in hockey and pass the puck, and
basketball, you can shoot a three-pointer from half court.
You can kind of half-ass it in every other sport at the Pro Bowl or All-Star game, but you can't do that when you put on pads and a helmet, because there's this need. Not only for self-preservation, but and for injury prevention, but you put that armor on, you wanna rip it, you wanna go, and so I don't mind that they did away with the tackle game, that it's now just a flag football thing. From a former player's perspective, I don't mind that, because getting injured in a meaningless Pro Bowl game after the season, that's no good. That's no good for anyone, right? So I don't have a problem with that, but I have more of a problem with how people are selected to the Pro Bowl. I don't really think the fans should vote. I don't think they should have a vote. It's just my opinion. I don't think the players should have a vote, because the players don't know.
No.
Right? When when I was playing, I don't know what other defensive players are good in the league because I'm busy watching offensive film or what offenses are doing in our film studies. And so I don't really have a grasp or a handle on who are the great defensive players. So our offensive players used to come over into our meeting room when we were voting, and they would tell us who they think the best defensive players in the league were. And so then, okay, and then we'd vote for those guys. And a lot of times that becomes a popularity contest. So I prefer more so to have either front office people voting for the Pro Bowl, or there be some type of committee. I'm not sure. I think Kurt Warner mentioned this, or somebody did, that have a committee of former players that played the position, voting for just that position.
That'd be awesome.
That would be more meaningful, I think, versus a popularity contest, which it in large part has become. Now, All-Pro is different, and All-Pro is legit, and Arizona Cardinals do have an All-Pro in Trey McBride. And so, look, I know this thing is kind of going in different directions right now, but when you look at the assets on this team and what they have offensively, you got Trey McBride, you got Michael Wilson, you got MHJ. You got some pieces there.
Definitely,
right? And you got some young talent on defense that there are some pieces here. Now you got to figure out the quarterback situation, but in my mind, it's not quite roster-wise. It's not quite up to par with the other teams on NFC West, but it's not like it's miles apart, right?
Before the draft, and we'll talk about the draft in another episode, but before the draft, before we even sniff the draft, what are 3 key elements that the Cardinals need to do to compete with the other teams in the NFC West? This Mount Everest we need to climb. What are 3 components that we can get closer to that peak?
Well, I think you can be aggressive in free agency. You can do some things with regards to certain positions that you can fill holes, and then you don't really need to address in the draft. You can either look at the offensive line, look at the free agent class that's going to be available, running back position group, defensive line, edge rush, I think is always going to be something that the Arizona Cardinals are going to need. So you can look at some of those position groups and try and fill those holes through free agency. But the draft is going to be where you really, I think, are going to make or break yourselves as a team. You really have to develop and grow through the draft because you have the advantage of getting these guys on their rookie deals and having them for 4 years to really, help your team. And so that to me is going to be the way that they are going to compete against these other teams in the NFC West.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well,
what else?
I think we hit pretty much everything. I mean, closing thoughts?
Yeah, so just a couple closing thoughts. I just got some dates here I want to just make note of. As I mentioned earlier, January 31st, Saturday, is the Senior Bowl. That's obviously a big thing for talent evaluators and coaches to be at, and all the best players, seniors, will be there as well. Then February 23rd through March 2nd is the NFL Scouting Combine. That's obviously in Indianapolis. We will talk more about that as we get closer. March 9th is when free agency negotiating window opens.
That's going to be big.
All of this is coming up quicker than you think. And so, obviously the Cardinals are kind of under the gun here. They're going to have to get a head coach soon. And I think at latest it would be just after the Super Bowl. But I think Cardinal fans would really like to get somebody now so that they could start building their staff around that head coach and go into some of these off-season key dates with a staff in place and a game plan ready to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Okay, with that, that is SEEIN RED, Epi 1, and we will talk more next week.
All right, Strades.
Cades?
Bye.
Bye.